Hey y'all, I'm James Wright. Welcome to my shop, the Kirfing Plane. It's been around for a while, but there are some new advancements. Let's take a look. This is the Kirfing Plane. I made this one almost 10 years ago now. And a Kirfing plane is basically what happens when you leave a saw and a plane in the room overnight and you turn off the lights. You come back and about 9 months later you find one of these. Now, we've all looked at boards and we know how to cut them this way. And we know how to rip them this way. But what happens if I want to cut it that way? Well, in that case, we grab a frame saw or large hand saw and we cut it just like any other board. It really doesn't take that much to cut down the board. The problem comes when you're following the line. For a lot of beginners, that can be very difficult to do. And even for someone who has a decent amount of skill, it can still sometimes be difficult. It would be kind of fun if this saw had a fence to guide it, like a table saw. That would be great, but the problem is you have to be able to control this. The saw has to be able to move around as you are following that cut. And if you do that, well, a fence isn't going to help you out much. So what would happen if we cut a groove into the board that would actually capture the blade and help guide the blade? It doesn't have to be very deep, just a ½ inch so, all the way around the board. And we'd actually have a groove that the saw would slide in, helping to hold it in place. Let me introduce you to the Kerfing Plane. What this does is it cuts in just a little ways into the board and will give you a nice clean kerf for the saw blade to fall into. And the nice thing is, it's the exact same kerf thickness as the saw, which actually stops the saw from moving around, keeping it in the track. But there's a downside. There's always a downside. The kits to make these, not the finished product, just the kit, costs as much as a fairly nice brand new hand plane. And we're talking about a kit. Now don't get me wrong, I actually bought one for myself. It's a very useful tool. And especially when you're beginning, this can save you a lot of effort and a lot of headache when you're ruining a very expensive piece of thick wood. But with this, you can actually work with a lot of thicker wood and turn it into thinner wood relatively easily. But wouldn't it be nice if you had a plow plane that was small enough? This plow plane is only a 1/16 of an inch wide, but a 1/16 of an inch is still too thick. This saw plate is only 0.032, and that's a lot less than the 1/16. Along came a guy named Eogrey, and he looked at this and thought, you know what, wouldn't it be nice if I actually just took a saw and mounted it onto this, and I'd have a fully functional Kerfing plane for a much cheaper price, because you can pick these up for relatively unaffordably, even on eBay. But the big downside is most of these come rusted and not in great shape and painted blue, because Record painted all their planes blue. It's actually not a bad idea. But Eric said, I want it to be chrome. And he actually strips them down and cleans them and makes them incredibly gorgeous. He puts on a bigger fence with brass screws because the original fences on these were, well, pitifully small. See this little blue thing? That's the fence. And before I get too far into this, hang on, because we're actually going to be giving this away. I'll explain it later. Then he drilled a hole through the front skate, put on a blade, so you have a pair of thumb screws that then can go in and lock the blade in place. Then you can come in here and really go to town. And let me tell you, this thing cuts incredibly fast. I've only been going at it for a few seconds and I'm already down to depth. I love how quickly this thing cuts. Yeah, just like that, we're down to depth. And now I've got this groove that will perfectly fit into my saw frame. It just fits down in there and slots in nicely. Look at that. Now what we have to do is go all the way around the board. Yeah, just like that, I'm already down to depth here. And then we move on to side 3. And done with side 4. And now we can start the ripping, but don't have to worry about keeping it dead on track because those kerfs kind of hold it in place. Every so often we're going to stop and rotate the board. And then come at it again. And then you got 2 boards where there used to be 1. And just for instance, this is old growth Cuban mahogany. Beautiful stuff to work with. And this plane took a little less than a minute to make the groove all the way around. And then it took around 3 minutes to do all of the sawing. So all told, we're around 4 minutes to resaw this board down. I don't know if I could get the bandsaw set up that fast. Now I do have to say, this is some of the worst resawing that I have done in a long time, but that's because I was rushing on this. I was really pushing this to see how fast I could get it done. Here is where I was actually starting off. I was going with a regular pace, and I thought, you know, let's see how fast I can do it. Up here, it's absolutely beautiful. I flipped the board around this side, and now you can see I'm on the line, but it's actually humped here and valleyed here. And that's because I really started to get fast and I started pushing into the saw. And at this point, you can see I actually was a full saw blade's thickness separated here when they actually split out. And then at this point here, you can see where the saw was actually starting to jump out of the cut. And that's a little bit of a warning. And that warning is, this really helps you out. It makes everything so much easier when you're resawing. However, it won't guarantee you have a great cut. If your technique isn't quite right, you're still gonna have some problems. But it will save you from a lot of other problems. Just realize that if you're really pushing and you're really putting your weight into that saw and you're driving it forward, you can still jump out of the cut that this will provide. Because what happens is when this is actually doing the cut, all these teeth load up with dust and it has to eject it one way or the other. And if it's cutting too fast and too thick, it will build up a lot of dust and that'll actually force the saw to one side and it ejects the dust on the other side. That makes the saw start to turn inside of the cut. So the answer is twofold. Either, number one, get a saw with bigger teeth so it holds on to more dust. Or number two, the better answer is don't put all of your weight into the saw. Because if you're putting your weight into the saw, each of these teeth are going to dig in more and they're going to bite off more dust than they can chew. In that case, then they're going to start veering all over the place. But that brings us back to the kerfing saw. This is a great use and makes it much easier to do. But the question is, if this is a really expensive kit, how much more expensive will it be to get a fully completed tool that has everything you need without having to build anything? And the answer is, this costs less than this kit. I actually just got off the phone with Eric here, and he just said, for fans of the channel, if you mention Wood by Wright, he's going to give it to you for the same price that he had at the conference, which is $2.99. That's cheaper than the kit. So you get this with all the blades and the stand in mint condition for $2.99, which is just like crazy. I don't know how he does that. That's so cool. But it doesn't just do the kerf. It also is a fully functional plow plane with a set of irons and a display tray so it will house it, and you can put all your irons in this little slit out here. All for less than the price of the kit. So yeah, that's right. You can loosen these two screws, take the blade off, put in one of the 4 provided irons, and turn it into a plow plane so you can make all of your regular plow grooves. It even comes with all the hardware that's often missing, such as the depth stop, all of the screws, and he's even re-knurled and made new screws that work even better than the originals. Plus, chromed everything, and it's done absolutely beautifully. And he's offering it for that price? Holy cow. Now, this may be sounding like an infomercial, and that's kind of because, well, I am absolutely blown away by this. But it's not. This one isn't even mine to keep. If I want one, I've got to go buy one. But I already have that one, so I don't know if I need another one, but honestly, I really like it, so I may end up buying one for myself. This, however, is going to be donated and given away to one of you. So yeah, it's not actually an infomercial, it's me showing off something that I'm giving away. And to make it even better, we're going to be doing it as a charity raffle for Plane Wellness. So everyone can go buy a raffle ticket for this. It's $1, you can buy as many as you want, and in a week we're going to draw a winner, and all of the proceeds from the raffle go to Plane Wellness. So it's a win-win-win-win-win. Not to mention, holy cow, I don't know how he sells these for that price. That is just crazy good. So let's bring it back to the whole Kirfing Plane thing. Do you need one of these? Honestly, if you really get into it and you do it regularly, you don't need a Kirfing Plane. I don't remember the last time I grabbed mine to do the work because I'd just rather do it all in one step. A good, well set up frame saw that isn't forced and pushed can be controlled fairly nicely and follow a line right down the board. It isn't needed to have a kerf for the saw to follow in. But if you're getting started and your skills aren't all that great, or you don't do it all the time, having one of these can be a lifesaver. And it does it incredibly quick. I'm kind of floored. So I'm going to be leaving a few links down below. One of them is to Shop Dog Woodworks, Eric Eogrey's shop. He does these, which are just incredible. And if you'd like to buy one, there's a link down there. Now, he doesn't have a website where you can order it. You actually just contact him and you can pay him through that and he'll mail one to you. He's a really cool guy and he makes these kind of one-off in his spare time. So if you want to contact him, there's information on that down below. Number 2, I'm going to have a link to a raffle where you can go and buy a ticket or multiple for this. And if you would like to win this exact piece here with these irons, then go buy a $1 ticket and all proceeds go to Plane Wellness. So you get a chance of winning this as well as helping Plane Wellness. It's kind of a cool situation. Now, I first ran into Eric in person at Hand Tool Haven just last month, and I was absolutely blown away by his tools that he has there. He's a really cool guy doing really cool things, and I actually just wanted to give him a shout out as well as help out Plane Wellness. So thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, snide remarks, or just want to say, "Whoa!" down below, then go down there and do what you want to do. So thank you for that. As well as all of those people over there. Look at all those fantastic, wonderful names. Those are some of the beautiful people over on Patreon. And honestly, without patrons, we would not exist. You guys are the ones that sponsor this channel. You may have noticed that I didn't come up in the middle and say, this is sponsored by such a couch company. Now, yes, sometimes I will be pointing off interesting things that I've found, but I get to say this because I want to say it, not because someone is selling it to say it to me. I actually don't make any money on this. I don't even get to keep the tool. This all goes for charity, and that's because of patrons. So if you'd like to find out more about that, links down below. I think that'll do it for now, and until next time, have a wonderful day. I am really sorry for all the beeping noise throughout this whole video. It's just been an absolute mess with all the kerfing going on.